What up, everybody? What up, everybody? What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of AC Reviews the World. I am your host, AC the Engineer, and we are at episode 120. Yes, 120. Hope everybody had a beautiful week. It is Friday, January 30th. Did I say 120 or is it 1? Hold on. How many episodes? See, I'm getting distracted. Episode 120. Yes, 120. Hopefully everybody had a beautiful week. It is January 30th, a Friday. It is the end of the week, y'all. You know what that means? This is the last show of the week. This is the last show of the week where we go over some crazy things. We had a good week. We talked about a lot of crazy things. We reviewed a lot of crazy videos. Like always, if you ever disagree with anything I say, please leave a comment. Let's talk about it. Let's have a discussion on this stuff because it's a crazy world and we got to review the world together. We have to review the world together. Hopefully everybody had a beautiful day today, but it is time to get down to business. Because you know what we do here? We review some of the craziest stuff that we need to keep our eye on and things that just help us move forward in our daily lives. At least that's how I feel about it. But you know how I like to do it? We got 4 topics today we're going to go over because we meet Monday through Friday starting around 6 to 7, where we go over 4 of the craziest topics that popped up on my recommenders that we need to discuss. But let's jump into it. The first topic we're discussing today is we got to go to Orange County. Why? Because we got a man killed over some loud music. Yes, a man killed over playing his music too loud. We're going to go over into that. We got 2 videos to look at, and then we'll go over into the AI breakdown like we always do. But let's jump over into it and see what we can find out and see what we can learn from this situation. Like I said, let me know if you disagree with anything I say. Let's get into it.
A man is dead, and it's all over loud music. A man is accused of pounding on his neighbor's door, telling him to turn it down. Well, that triggered a fight and ultimately a deadly shot. Fox 35's Marie Edinger is joining us live now in Orange County. So, Marie, you spoke to the victim's family today.
Just a few moments ago, actually, Lou, and I was able to talk with the mother and youngest brother of Arnold Rapopalo, the man who was shot and killed in this incident. They are heartbroken and still trying to digest what happened. That was January 21st when he was shot and killed. Fox 35 was on scene that night. We were called out initially, or police were called out initially, just for reports of that shooting. The arrest was only made a week later. That was Michael Thrasher brought in for the shooting. And we've just learned that the investigation has revealed, as you mentioned, that he was starting a fight allegedly because of loud music that he was playing next door, and that led to a fight that ultimately resulted in Arnold being shot and killed. The sheriff's office says that they are still going to be investigating, going around and reviewing surveillance video. I was out there today talking with neighbors. They said that they had heard loud music play before, but they didn't have any problem with it, that it was really only Thrasher who seemed to have an issue. I did also talk again with the uncle of the victim here, Arnold, who said that he is just mortified hearing how this actually played out, and that being killed by somebody allegedly for loud music playing is just heartbreaking to hear. His brother I talked with about how he'd want to be remembered.
Now, let me say something. We all know how the situation took place. He knocked on the door, banged on the door like he usually does. He told him turn down the music. The dude said no. And he couldn't control himself anymore. He couldn't control his emotions. I guess they might have started to tussle. Somebody was losing, or you don't know if he just pulled out a gun right away or the fight happened, he was losing, but over loud music? Come on now. If anything, if it's too loud, call the police. If it's too loud, because there is noise ordinance, something like that. You can't be loud after a certain hour. Too loud. But let's keep going.
As a family, we're trying to stay strong. We're trying to stay connected with each other. Just, making sure everybody is able to grieve properly. I would want him to be remembered as somebody that was just a very loving person.
We learned both of the people involved in this, the victim and the alleged shooter, were military veterans. Arnold served 4 years in the Navy, and Thrasher spent a little under a year in the Marines. I did also learn that Thrasher has been violent in the past and served time for it. I'll be talking more about that tonight at 6. You'll also hear more from Arnold's family. Live in Orlando, Marie Edinger, Fox 35 News.
Now, let's get over into this next video and see if they give us any more details.
An Orange County man is accused of shooting and killing his neighbor for playing his music too loud. Michael Thrasher appeared before a judge for the first time today. West 2's Luana Munoz is live from the sheriff's office right now with what happened in court and what neighbors are now saying. Luana.
Yeah, that's right. Michael Thrasher did appear before a judge for the first time today. Very briefly, the judge gave him no bond, and residents in that neighborhood where the shooting happened are hoping that this shooting will lead to better security in the area.
Mr. Thrasher, you're here today.
32-year-old Michael Thrasher appeared before an Orange County judge Thursday afternoon for the first time since his arrest. Court documents show on January 21st, Orange County Sheriff's deputies were called to these apartments on Moselle Avenue off Old Cheney Highway. Deputies say Thrasher, quote, walked out of his apartment armed with a handgun and went to his neighbor, Arnold Rapatello's apartment to confront Rapatello due to excessive volume of music or noise. Surveillance video shows Thrasher, quote, banging, kicking, and attempting to force entry by trying the door handle. When Rapatello opened the door, deputies say Thrasher stuck his foot in to keep it open. Deputies say an argument turned into a physical fight with Thrasher hitting Rapatello. That fight continued outside, where Thrasher, quote, drew his firearm from his waistband and fired one round into Rapatello's chest, ultimately killing him. One neighbor we talked with moved into the complex the day after the shooting.
Now, let me say something. That sounds like he was aiming to kill someone. To me, that because you walk outside with your gun in your hand, ready to go. It's crazy.
Worried a little bit because I was told that this area was changing. It's actually changing for the better. I've spoken to some of the neighbors, and it seems to be doing better, but it does make me a little nervous.
While deputies have increased patrols since the shooting, neighbors who've lived there longer say the area isn't always safe.
A lot of traffic goes through here. All hours of the night, anywhere from 11 at night till sometimes 6 in the morning. Get a lot of overflow because on the backside of BP, obviously, there's the methadone clinic.
Thrasher faces charges of first-degree felony murder while engaging in a burglary and armed burglary of an occupied dwelling with battery. And Thrasher is due back in court on February 3rd for a pretrial hearing. Covering Orange County, live from the sheriff's office tonight, I'm Luana.
Now, this is a crazy situation. Some of the things they said that he came out of his apartment with the gun, knocked on his door, tried to open it, tried to get in. And when he opened the door, he stuck his foot in it like, yeah, nah, you can't close the door on me. And then when they finally went outside, he shot him in the chest. Let's go over into the AI breakdown to see if they tell us anything different or just any new information. Let's get over into it. So as we know, a 38-year-old U.S. Navy veteran was shot and killed in Orange County following a dispute. The shooting happened on January 21st, 2026 at the apartment of the 1200 block of Moays Avenue. I probably said that wrong. Surveillance video reportedly showed Michael Anthony Jr., 32, kicking and banging on the door to complain about the volume of the noise. When he opened the door, a verbal altercation escalated into a physical fight outside the apartment. Thrasher allegedly backed away, pulled a handgun from his waist, and shot him in the chest. He was transported to the local hospital where he later died. Thrasher was arrested approximately 1 week later on January 28th. I wonder why it took so long to arrest him today. I'm assuming he claimed self-defense. Self-defense. I don't know why I got tongue-tied on that. Self-defense. Maybe they took a week to investigate and determined that it was murder. He faced charges of first-degree murder and armed burglary. He was held without bond following his first court appearance. Thrasher, a U.S. Marine Corps veteran who served for at least 1 year, for less than a year. He had prior criminal record, including a 2021 plea deal for hitting a girlfriend with a gun and a 2023 conviction of fleeing from the police. Oh yeah, this man he had a screw loose already. The family of the victim described him as a light in the community and a member of the local running community who had recently moved to Florida from New York. Let's see, AI knows what I want to see. Let's get more details on his criminal history. So he has a history of violent and non-compliant behavior. So let's see. In 2021, Thrasher accepted a plea deal when he hit his girlfriend in the head with a gun. 2023 fleeing conviction. While still on probation for the 2021 gun-related battery, he was convicted of fleeing from law enforcement. Following the 2023 conviction, he was sent back to jail and was only released in March of 2024. He served briefly in the U.S. Marine Corps as a private E1 from September 11, 2011 to August 2012, serving less than a year. He is currently facing charges and what we know. It's a crazy situation. Absolutely crazy situation. But you never know what something so little as playing loud music can drive someone crazy enough to where they even think of killing you. Even think of it coming through their mind. It just goes to show how close people are to stepping over that edge. It's an absolute crazy situation. At the end of the day, call the police. Call the police. If they're being too loud, you told them before, and if they are breaking the noise ordinance, I think I said that right this time, call the police, and the police will handle it. There's no need for you to go over there, get into a confrontation that's going to most likely end in a fight because you can't handle your own emotions. It's a crazy situation, y'all. Let me know your thoughts on that situation. Let me know if you disagree with anything I said. We're going to now pivot over into the second topic we're going to be discussing today. And we got to go to Portland. We got to go to Portland where we got a 19-year-old serial rapist who it sounds like he was luring girls on using online dating apps and other things like that. You have to be careful. I've said this plenty of times, ladies. You have to be careful when you meet a random man. You truly have to be, because you don't know what they're capable of and you don't know what can happen. We got to talk, not just women, men too. They got to be aware because it could be a setup, something like that. There's plenty of things that can happen and go wrong. But let's get over into this video and see what we can find out. 19 years old and a serial rapist. Let's get into it. Let's get into it.
What I can say is that with this plea, we know that Mr. Anderson will not be harming other members of our community.
Tonight, justice for several Portland women and girls after an accused serial rapist pleaded guilty in court today. But some are raising questions on why the man was able to get away for nearly 2 years. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us tonight at 11. I'm Barry Mangold. A lot to get to tonight. According to Portland police, the suspect met most of his victims through social media before attacking them at gunpoint. KT's Victor Park is live downtown in Portland for us. And Victor, at least one of the victims we know was just 13 years old.
Yeah, Barry. Hey, good evening. And you know, investigators say Damani Jazz Anderson preyed on 4 girls and 1 woman all throughout the last couple of years. Here it is. It is the moment victims and their families have been waiting for. Damani Jazz Anderson pleaded guilty to rape, kidnapping, and weapons charges on Friday.
I am so thankful that we were able to get this resolution for the victims and to avoid a trial so that they didn't have to relive that immense trauma that they suffered.
District Attorney Nathan Vasquez says the crimes began in 2023 when Anderson was 16 years old. Police say he met most of his victims through social media apps and on one occasion, a dating app. He lured some of them to remote areas where he pulled out a gun and then raped them. As to why wasn't this terrible behavior interrupted sooner, especially after Gresham police allegedly were made aware, Vasquez responded.
There was one victim in particular that came forward and escaped Mr. Anderson that really kind of brought this case forward, and when law enforcement was able to kind of piece it all together, there were some immediate actions taken.
Police warn dating app users to always have first-time meetings in a public place. Tell friends or family where you're going, and be sure your cell phone is fully charged. Anderson's crimes also puts the spotlight on the dangers of social media and renewed calls for companies to better protect children. For now, Vasquez says the victim's courage to come forward has saved many others.
This is a tragic situation, and they're 100% correct. You need to be aware of how crazy some people can be. But let's keep going.
Will help ensure that for decades and decades that there won't be other victims of Mr. Anderson.
It's a crazy situation. Let's go to the next video and see if they tell us anything different.
First at 5, a 19-year-old man convicted of kidnapping and raping multiple women with the aid of social media and dating apps was sentenced to prison.
Fox 12's McKenna Marks was in the courtroom and joins us live after speaking with the prosecutor on this case. McKenna, what did she tell you?
Yeah, Pete, Nora, well, Damani Anderson was sentenced to 45 years in prison today. Now, before the judge handed out his sentence, the court also heard from multiple victims. And like you said, I was able to speak to the prosecutor on this case, and she tells me if it wasn't for the bravery of these victims, Anderson likely wouldn't have received such a lengthy sentence.
You're going to prison for a very long time.
Over a year and a half after he was arrested on rape and kidnapping charges, 19-year-old Damani Anderson was sentenced to 45 years in prison. Anderson was arrested in August of 2024, and the Multnomah County District Attorney's Office says multiple adult and juvenile women, including a 13-year-old, came forward.
We shouldn't let ourselves get too far removed from the fact that these are real things that happen to real people. And this case begs for that reminder. That very real, very terrifying things happen to very young people at the hands of Damani Anderson.
Police say Anderson would find his victims on social media or dating apps and convince them to meet him in a secluded area. Then, police say Anderson would hold his victims at gunpoint before assaulting them.
I am so sorry this happened to you.
Prosecutor Robin Skarsdad says it's because of the victims that came forward that the Portland community is now a little safer.
Because this was an individual who was on a path of reoffending. To my assessment, his attacks were getting more violent, and the fact that they were willing to come forward at great personal cost to themselves to keep the rest of the community safe is really meaningful.
Anderson was facing more than 40 charges connected to 5 different rape cases. Last week, he pleaded guilty to 12 charges.
As to count 1, then, in case number 24 CR 41664, which charges you with the crime of rape in the first degree with a firearm, how do you wish to plead? Guilty. As to count 4, then, in the same case, which charges you with the crime of kidnapping in the first degree with a firearm, how do you wish to plead? Guilty.
In court on Thursday, many of Anderson's victims shared their impact statements with the judge, detailing how their lives have changed since they were attacked, including one of the victims' mothers.
This is not something that heals. It is not something that fades with time. This damage and the discomfort she will always feel will move into every relationship we will ever have.
And Skarsdad says it's thanks to the victims who came forward that justice was served.
These victims who came today to send that message about this is what coming forward looks like, that you can get justice, if not relief, is a message that I hope will encourage others to do that and continue to make our environment safer.
Anderson was also required to register as a sex offender and also received a sentence of 20 years of post-prison supervision. Reporting live from downtown Portland, McKenna Marks, Fox 12 Oregon.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. 45 years. He's 19 years old, so he'll get out at 64. I can't remember. We'll look at the AI breakdown to see if he has any, parole. If he can get out on parole. But then after he gets out, he has to do 20 years. 20 years of supervised probation. So let's get over into the AI breakdown to see if we missed anything or just any more information on this whole horrible case. So as we know, Anderson, 19-year-old, a serial rapist from Portland, was sentenced to 45 years for a series of violent rapes from February 2023 to August 2024. He pleaded guilty to 4 counts of first-degree rape, along with multiple counts of kidnapping, unlawful use of a firearm, robbery, and attempted rape. He targeted 5 young women and girls, ranging in age from 13 to 19. He often used social media dating apps like Snapchat and Tinder to lure victims to secluded areas, such as industrial sites or parks, where he would terrorize them at gunpoint. Teach your daughters to be smart, because you can't control everywhere they go. You can try to, but they will sneak out. But you have to teach them to be smart. Why are you meeting a random man you've never met before at an industrial site, at a place where there's no one around? Absolutely crazy. Let's keep going. So apprehension. He was arrested in August 2024 after an 18-year-old victim managed to escape from an abandoned warehouse in North Portland and seeks help from the neighbors. Following his arrest, and the release of his photo, 4 additional survivors came forward. And then they delivered a 45-year sentence on this whole thing. There are some evil people in this world. There are some demons in this world. I've said this several times. But luckily, one of them came forward and set this all into motion, because that is the main thing we need to tell young women and people, anybody who's a victim of crime, come forward so that something can be done. Because we need to get these people off the street. Absolutely crazy situation, y'all. Let me know your thoughts and let me know if you disagree with anything I said. Absolutely crazy. Oh, thank you for tuning in, my friend. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the support. Remember, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button, my friend. Well, you're already subscribed. Thank you for tuning in. Not enough time. That's still not enough time. He ruined. Yeah, hey. In my opinion, he needs to be in there for life. Absolute life at the minimum. He shouldn't be out to walk around free. But they tie their hands with how much they can give them, or the laws tie their hands. But some of these creeps need to die in the jail. But it's a crazy situation. But we're going to pivot over into the next topic we're going to be discussing today. So this one, a little less crazy, but it's still very interesting. We got Luigi Mangione. I might be saying his last name wrong. Forgive me. I'm not good at that. But he avoids the death penalty. So we're going to get into a video about that. And then we'll think about what our thoughts are. But let's get over into it. Let's see what we can find out about this whole situation. Let's jump into it.
All right, we now go to some breaking news. A New York federal judge has just dropped the death penalty charge against Luigi Mangione for the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. This is a major blow to prosecutors. U.S. District Judge Margaret Garnett found that the charge was, quote, technically flawed. CBS News legal contributor Caroline Polisi joins us now for more on this story. So talk about how this decision you think was made.
Yeah, this is an epic win for the defense. And I do want to just walk through a little bit of how the technical law plays into this decision, because it's not simply just the judge deciding, hey, I don't think the death penalty should be eligible in this case. There were 4 counts. This federal indictment charged Mangione with 4 counts. The first 2 involve stalking, and the second 2 counts, 3 and 4, are those death penalty. 3 was the death penalty eligible count, which involved murder through the use of a firearm in commission of another crime of violence. And we've heard this idea of a predicate crime before. Counts 3 and 4, those predicate crimes were the stalking charges. And the defense made a really good motion noting that stalking is not a crime of violence. Therefore, counts 3 and 4 were legally insufficient. And that's what the judge agreed with today. This is why having very sophisticated criminal defense attorneys pays off. They are winning almost every motion they are making. Remember, in the state case, they got that highest charge off the table, murder one, because they said this was not an act of terrorism. The judge agreed with them there. The life in prison, which was the highest sentence available on that charge, taken off the table in the state case. Now we have the death penalty taken off the table in the federal case. Huge win for the defense.
So remind us, Caroline, what the debate over...
Now, let me say this before we get into a little bit more information about this. She is 100% right. Having a good lawyer, especially a defensive lawyer when you're doing a crime, the money pays for itself. Which we have to talk about the moral implications anyway. Being a defense attorney in general, defending some of these horrible crimes. But then some people will say everyone is entitled to their defense, which they are if we believe in and support the laws that are currently on the books. But let's keep going.
The evidence was specifically with regards to when police first approached Luigi Mangione.
Yeah, Vlad, that's sort of the major outstanding issue left to be decided in both of these cases, and it is pivotal. So I mentioned before that the defense is winning, is winning many major motions, including this one we just heard about. However, I'm not as confident that they will win this motion, which is a huge make or break motion, both for the prosecution and the defense. Essentially, what Mangione's attorneys were arguing is that evidence that was seized in the Altoona McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, upon his arrest, in his backpack, key pieces of evidence in his backpack, including that magazine cartridge, the gun, we're seeing it there, a journal, basically a manifesto explaining reasons about why he allegedly did what he did. All of that, the defense is saying, was obtained in violation of his Fourth Amendment right because they didn't have a warrant. Now, the alternate argument to that, police can do a search without a warrant and be not in violation of the Constitution if there are exigent circumstances. And I think the judge ultimately will let this evidence in under what's known as the inevitable discovery doctrine. It's a pretty technical legal issue, but this is what these lawyers are doing. They are getting down into the nitty-gritty, making these motions and causing really putting the government to their proof. That's sort of the last question in this case before we get to trial, and that's sort of the biggest issue left to be determined. Again, I'm not optimistic that the defense will win that, but the defense must be very, very happy today in this ruling to dismiss counts 3 and 4. Really big deal.
Caroline, I can't.
Now, that would be a crazy win for the defense, that they could get the evidence of the gun, the magazine, and the manifesto thrown out because of an illegal search. But it does pose the question on would they have already found it because they were on the lookout for them. That's a crazy thing. Let's keep going.
I remember the last time we had a case this big, this captivating, really not just here in the U.S., but around the world, right? There was so much publicity about it. I felt like everyone's social media feeds were just filled with images and videos of Luigi Mangione. And I just wonder how, if any way, that may impact the legal proceedings here.
Absolutely. I mean, this is going to be an incredibly difficult case for trial to pick a jury. One of the issues today to be addressed was that juror questionnaire, which is essentially trying to sift out jurors that potentially could have biases that they can't overcome. I mean, we're seeing this free Luigi Mangione movement really pick up speed here. I mean, this breaking news about somebody trying to break him out of the federal prison that he's in. I mean, his defense fund is funded in large part from, people around the country that support him. And so that will be one of the biggest issues in picking a jury, trying to get a fair trial. You're never going to seat jurors that haven't heard of this case. It's just impossible. But the goal is to seat jurors that can be fair and impartial. And really what the prosecutors don't want are those rogue jurors that are pretending really to be impartial, but secretly have some sort of, allegiance to Mangione and or his movement that will just never vote to convict him.
So, Caroline, this is a federal case that we're talking about here, but Mangione is also facing state charges. Where does that case stand?
That's exactly right, Vlad. And we're seeing a very public turf war over which jurisdiction is going to get the first crack at trying Mangione. Just recently, Alvin Bragg's office, the district attorney that has pending murder charges against Mangione as well, wrote to the judge in that case saying, look, we are ready to go to trial. They proposed a July trial date, Vlad, which is obviously before that September trial date in the federal case, which is set to go to, pick a jury essentially in September. And so Mangione's team, Karen Friedman Agnifilo, she released a statement saying, well, this is the first we've heard of that. It's highly unfair. We've been preparing for a trial in September, and it's really unduly prejudicial for us to have to prepare for the state trial, which, it's the same conduct, Vlad, but it's different charges. And so, really, it's not a good look for both offices, both the Southern District of New York and the district attorney's office. They're clearly not on the same page. And I think part of that has to do with the administration change. Pam Bondi coming in, really pushing hard for that death penalty, wanting to sort of get the first crack at having that trial in federal courts.
It's a crazy situation, no matter how you look at it. But the death penalty is off the table. The death penalty is off the table. Let's go over into the AI breakdown. So, like I said, the death penalty in a Manhattan federal judge ruled today that Mangione will not face the death penalty. She dismissed the 2 federal charges, a murder charge and a weapons charge, finding that they did not meet the legal definition of crimes of violence required for capital punishment. He still faces federal stalking charges that carry a minimum sentence of life in prison. Separate New York state charges, including second-degree murder, also remain active, and they carry a potential of 25 years to life. He is aiming for a trial date of July 1st, 2026. Jury selection for the federal trial is currently scheduled for September 8th, 2026. Now, let's attempted jailbreak. On January 28th, a 35-year-old man was arrested after allegedly posing as an FBI agent and with a barbecue fork and pizza cutter in an attempt to free Mangione from federal custody in Brooklyn. Absolute crazy. So this all stems from the December 4th, 2024 murder of Brian Thompson. It's an absolutely crazy situation. Now, he's got a lot of supporters because all of his legal fees are covered by the public defense. That's why he has such good lawyers. And he's raised hundreds of thousands of dollars from supporters just sending him money. And all of this from the diary talking about the evidence that his motives against the CEO for what they've done for the healthcare system. It's a crazy situation, y'all. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think it's all right for him to have the death penalty taken off the table? Absolutely crazy. But that is where we are sitting right now with the Luigi Mangione stuff. It's a crazy situation. Absolutely crazy. But we're going to pivot over into the last topic we're going to be discussing today. And we got a virus outbreak in India. I don't know if y'all heard about it. We're going to listen because I haven't listened to the videos yet. I keep wanting to say Nepal virus, but that might just be thinking too much Flavor Flav. Let's get over into this video and see what we can find out. We got a few videos to look at, and of course we'll do the AI breakdown so we can see exactly what we need to know or what we missed. But let's get over into it, see what we can find out. Let's jump into it.
Officials in the U.S. tonight are monitoring a deadly virus that is spreading overseas. Airports in Southeast Asia are now heightening their airport screenings. Raf Sanchez is following this from London for us. And Raf, what more do we know?
So, Tom, airports across the region are stepping up their screening for what's known as the Nipah virus. This is a far more deadly virus than COVID. It has a fatality rate of between 40 and 75%, according to the World Health Organization. Now, it's usually carried by fruit bats, and human-to-human transmission seems to be rare, but there is no vaccine at this point, which is why these two cases in India are being taken so seriously. The Indian Ministry of Health says it's been doing contact tracing, and it believes the virus is contained. And the CDC says it is monitoring the situation, and it stands ready to assist if needed. Tom.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay up.
That was just a short video. Let's get into a more detailed video.
Now to a story getting attention around the world today. New developments out of India, where authorities are investigating a virus outbreak.
It's called the Nipah virus, and they're confirming 2 cases so far. Meanwhile, Asian countries are tightening health screening and airport surveillance for travelers coming in from India.
Janice Mackey-Freyer has the latest.
This is a highly contagious virus between humans, and it's often deadly. The 2 cases of Nipah virus were detected in India in the state of West Bengal, but there are concerns the outbreak could spread. The virus has a fatality rate of 40 to 75%, according to the World Health Organization, deadlier than the COVID virus, and there's no vaccine for Nipah. So authorities in India are taking no chances. At the same time, several airports across Asia, in Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia, and Hong Kong, are taking steps to screen passengers for any symptoms. Nipah is a zoonotic virus that's transmitted from animals, usually fruit bats, and doesn't spread easily to humans. It can also come from contaminated food. And when it does hit, it initially feels like the flu, then worsens. Experts say pneumonia and other respiratory symptoms can develop. But the most serious complication is encephalitis, or inflammation of the brain. The WHO says the fatality rate has a lot to do with the country's capacity to test, trace, and treat those infected. In India, authorities have quarantined nearly 200 people who may have come into contact with the 2 infected. It's the first time in nearly 20 years that India has had cases, but they believe the outbreak is now contained. Still, it's a situation that U.S. health officials are watching very closely, the CDC saying they're ready to assist if needed.
Now, that's a crazy situation. They said it rarely passes from human to bat, fruit bat. But then when it gets to a human, it's very contagious, with a death rate from 40 to 70% from inflammation of the brain. It's absolutely crazy. Let's go to one more video.
Got to talk about this. Quarantines, testing, contact tracing, airport screenings. Does all this sound very familiar? Unfortunately, don't worry. It is not 2020 again. It's not COVID. But this is serious. There is a different virus outbreak in India that is triggering all of those familiar precautions in parts of Asia right now. It is called the Nipah virus, okay? And it's often deadly, has a fatality rate of 40 to 75%. There are only 2 cases of the virus in India so far, but it has prompted airports in Thailand, Singapore, Hong Kong, Malaysia to step up their screenings to prevent a bigger outbreak. And the virus is carried by bats and pigs, but it can be spread human-human contact. But how easy is it to be transmitted? What's the incubation period? How worried should we be? I'm joined right now by an infectious disease epidemiologist at the Hartford Belfer Center, Dr. Saira Madad. Thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it. What exactly is the Nipah virus?
Well, the Nipah virus is a serious virus, and as you've mentioned, it does have a high case fatality rate, anywhere from 40 to 70%, and that also depends on where you're getting healthcare services. So if you're in a country that has good a healthcare delivery system, you could probably get much better care, and that case fatality rate is likely much lower. Now, with that said, as I mentioned, it is a serious virus. It has no approved vaccines or therapeutics, but in this context, it is a small and contained outbreak, and it is closely being monitored. And so when we look at these 2 cases that have been confirmed in India, in West Bengal, about 200 contacts have been identified, tested, and are negative. And at this time, no additional cases have been detected, as well as there's no evidence of spread outside of India. While you've noted, a couple of countries have started to implement enhanced airport screening, that's more of a sign of a precautionary step than to signal a wider spread of transmission. So this is just precautionary.
My concern is whether or not that would actually work. I read that it has a 2-week incubation period. Sometimes symptoms might not even show. this can be spread human-human contact, but it's different than COVID, right?
It's very different than COVID. So when we talk about COVID-19, we think of, airborne spread. And, with Nipah virus, it is not like that. It doesn't spread through kind of the airborne route. There are 3 ways of transmission. And so when we talk about the 3 ways of transmission, one is from animals to humans. That is what oftentimes, starts. That is what starts the outbreak. And so coming in contact with an infected animal, such as a bat, or through the foodborne route, meaning that an infected animal has contaminated food products like fruit or even a date palm sap, and then a human consumes that and then gets infected. And then the third way is human-to-human transmission. And through human-to-human transmission, that is close, prolonged contact. So oftentimes we see that in household settings or in healthcare settings where infection prevention and control is not as great.
So in other words, and correct me if I'm wrong, it could be transmitted maybe like the norovirus. So it's not, you have to have prolonged contact with somebody. Is it somebody who's showing symptoms? Because again, the question's going to be, what do people do to prevent this? What are ways that they should avoid it?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. And what's important is because it doesn't spread, as easily through the airborne route like measles and COVID, it is more difficult to get it. But it obviously, you can still get infected if you're in close contact with, any infected animal sources, bodily fluid that's infected, or infected food sources. So with that, prevention really is to avoid these contaminated sources. When we talk about the incubation period, it is anywhere from 4 to 14 days. So when somebody is symptomatic and you see them visibly sick, it's the basic precautions. If you see somebody that is sick, you want to make sure you're keeping a distance from them. And especially if you're in that local area where this outbreak is happening, you want to be even extra cautious. But in other countries, for example, regional spread, it's still very low. And, you're seeing these airports, these countries doing enhanced airport monitoring as a precaution. But in terms of spread more internationally, for example, to the United States, that threat is quite low, but it's always good to be prepared.
And by the way, just to reiterate this, what are the symptoms exactly that you should be on the lookout for? And you mentioned there's no established therapeutics or vaccines yet. If you get it, how do you treat it? So 2 questions, what are the symptoms and how do you treat it?
Yeah. So the symptoms, the initial symptoms could be fever, cough, sore throat, and then it can progress to pneumonia or even neurological conditions. It can cause brain swelling and the like. And so it could be pretty rapid sometimes. And then in terms of, the treatments, there is no treatments or vaccines available. So it's really supportive care. So in the hospital, getting supportive care like intensive care support and the like. And we do have some investigational therapeutics, but nothing that's approved.
All right.
Okay, so we got the gist of everything. So it just seems like it's happening in India, 2 cases so far, but they're worried about it because the death rate is 40 to 70%. And there's very little chances right now for it coming over to America. But I'm assuming everything else, COVID probably started small too. But let's go over into the AI breakdown to see if we missed anything. Because we just, we want to find out, and these are things that we need to know. So as of late January 26, health authorities are responding to Nipah virus. See, I almost said Nepal again. Nipah virus outbreak in India. So let's see. The outbreak is centered in, I'm not even going to try to say it, North 24 in West Bengal. 2 laboratories confirmed cases were notified to the World Health Organization. Both individuals, 25-year-old healthcare workers, 1 male and 1 female nurse at the same private hospital. As of late January, the male nurse has shown clinical improvements, while the female nurse remains in critical condition on a mechanical ventilator. Over 190 contacts have been identified and tested. All have been returned negative. That's good. Due to the high fatality rate of the virus, 40 to 75%. So some are saying 40 to 70, some are saying 40 to 75. Several neighboring countries have implemented precautionary measures. So they have did initial health screenings for passengers arriving from the area, and then the CDC is monitoring the situation as in contact with the Indian officials. So it's a zoonotic virus spread to humans from a fruit bats, infested pigs, or through contaminated foods like raw date, palm sap. So like they said, initial flu-like symptoms, brain swelling, seizures, coma within 24 to 48 hours. There is no licensed vaccines. Avoid contact with bats and sick animals. Do not consume raw date, palm sap, and ensure fruits is thoroughly washed and peeled. More things that make us scared that we're going to relive 2020 again with the COVID virus and go back under the intense lockdown, intense just separation from everybody else. But let me know your thoughts on that whole situation, y'all. Let me know if you disagree with anything I said. Just things that we got to review, y'all. There are things that we have to review, and so we know how to move forward. But that is it for the show today, y'all. Like always, we go over 4 topics that I just found interesting and I wanted to talk about. Let me know if you disagree with anything I said, because this is the show. This is the show where we talk and discuss things. If I'm not going to say I know everything, so if you have a better point or if you think I'm missing something, please tell me. Let's talk about it. But that is it for the show, y'all. Remember, this is AC Reviews the World, and I am your host, AC the Engineer. These videos will be broken down, so you can go back and watch the ones you want. I'm happy for anybody who shows up. Thank you for watching now. Thank you for watching later. Remember, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. That's all I need for you to show your support. But you already know that this is the last show of the week we'll be back Monday, starting between 6 and 7, where we go over 4 more topics that we need to talk about. But like I said, thank you all for watching. And that's it for now. You already know I got to play that outro. Yeah, thank you for tuning in now. But that's it, y'all. Peace. Oh, my button's sticky.